Hey there everybody, it's Baka here. Welcome to episode number 12 of the Wide World of Geek, where we look at what's new and what's news in the world of geek this week. Now, I've got a few things I want to talk about. First off, I want to apologize for not posting this video yesterday on Tuesday. I was not at home at all last night, well, last evening. I decided to go to a local Barnes & Noble, Starbucks, cafe, whatever you want to call it, and work on my board game. Now, if any of you have not watched last Friday's episode of the Weekend Workshop, I did talk about the board game that I'm currently designing. I am still in all the planning stages. It's all the technical details, making sure that everything works. But that's what I was working on last night from about 5:30 to, I don't know, I got home at about 10:30. And I was just too tired to put up a video. So I went to bed. But you get the Wide World of Geek today. So I have 4 different topics that I want to cover today. 4 bits that I have found online in the news. And it's not football news. I do love football, but this is geek stuff, not jock stuff. Yeah. Anyway, first off, Avengers vs. X-Men is drawing to a close. This week brought us issue number 11 of the mini-series, maxi-series, whichever you want to call it. And it brought us the big pre-mentioned death. Avengers vs. X-Men, they promised there was going to be a major death in it, but they never told us who it was going to be. Well, we found out today. In Avengers vs. X-Men number 11, the big death, which Newsarama calls a death of biblical proportions, was none other than Professor Charles Xavier, founder, father of the X-Men. The man with the dream that one day mutants and humans might live in harmony. He was killed unceremoniously by his own, I guess you could call him adoptive son, his first X-Man, the Phoenix Force empowered Cyclops. Now, I've seen the pages of this, and it's a very callous death. Cyclops simply says, "You are not my father." And in a understandable anger, Professor Xavier says, "That's enough." Cyclops replies, "Yes, it is." And then he kills him. Bada boom, bada bing. That's it. Over really quick. No anger from Cyclops. None of that type. No emotionally, just kills him. Now, I was reading an article on Newsarama, and who was it? One of the X-Men, I believe it was Beast. If I can find this. Yes. The last page of Avengers vs. X-Men number 11, Beast declares Cyclops to be the Dark Phoenix, or at least to be showing Dark Phoenix-like abilities. I mean, he's killing, basically, the man who raised him. Yeah, they haven't gotten along in recent years, but still, that's low. Anyway, there's your Avengers vs. X-Men news. In other comic booky news, it's not quite comic books, but it's based on comic books. I mentioned a while ago that, well, maybe it was last week, but I mentioned that Joss Whedon's new Marvel TV show that he's going to be co-writing, he's co-writing with his brother Jeb Whedon, who is also an excellent writer, is S.H.I.E.L.D. And today they released some interesting news that S.H.I.E.L.D. is not going to be just one of those, well, I'll just read the quote from Whedon because it's excellent. Where is it? Okay. It's new characters. It needs to be its own thing. It needs to be adjacent to the Marvel Comics universe. You don't want to do a show where you're constantly going, Iron Man just left, but he was totally here a minute ago. You want them to go off on their own thing and say, well, what has S.H.I.E.L.D. got that other heroes don't have? I find this extremely cool. He's saying, basically, we're not going to pretend that all of these big movie stars that are in our Avengers movies are going to be dropping by, but they're not going to get on camera, or you might get, like, the back of the armor or, you know, somebody leaving screen. My guess is if they have cameos, it will be once a season. It'll be one character at a time, depending on who's busy, who's not, if they're filming Avengers at that time. But what he's saying is they're going to create these new characters. And there are plenty of actual S.H.I.E.L.D. characters out there that they can use and have it be really effective and really interesting. You don't need to throw in all these superheroes that are in the Avengers to make the show work. It is still a Marvel Universe show. It ties completely in with the Marvel movies, but it doesn't have to just repeat what's going on. So kudos to Joss Whedon. This looks awesome. I can't wait. Now, two little bits of news that are just kind of random, a little bit funny. Yesterday I read on Newsarama, and this might have been from Monday as well. I'm not entirely sure on the date. But they put together their own Final Fantasy football team. Obviously, with football season starting, fantasy football is back. This is the first year in a long time that I'm not doing fantasy football. But it was hilarious to see who they chose. Their starting quarterback is Titus from Final Fantasy X. He's a professional athlete. He is the leader of a blitzball team, which is kind of like water polo meets rugby. Their backup was Fran from Final Fantasy 12. Sorry, I don't really know her. Wide receivers, Waka from Final Fantasy X, who is also another blitzball player and one of your main party members. Yuffie from Final Fantasy VII, and Cloud from Final Fantasy VII. Now, the Cloud thing was hilarious because the key attribute to him was moodiness. Yeah, moodiness. Great in all your wide receivers. The running backs was Locke from Final Fantasy VI, Sabin from 6. The kicker was Kane from Final Fantasy II. And the defense, and this was perfect, was Sid. All of them. From Final Fantasies 1 through 14. So that actually leaves you with 3 Sids for defense. And maybe a couple more if you include his grandchildren that have shown up in different games. This is just funny. It's a little bit of nonsense, but it was great. Last little bit, I read on IGN.com today. They listed they've started their list of their top 100 RPGs of all time. Now, they're only through 70, counting down, but there were a number of ones, especially in in 100 through 90, that kind of irked me. And it starts at, where is it? Come on. Number 97, I believe, is Final Fantasy VIII as 97. This is one of the greatest Final Fantasy games ever made, in my opinion, and in the opinion of a lot of people. Most people, except Final Fantasy VII will probably be in the top 10. 8, 97. Final Fantasy IX got a higher rating, and I like 9, but story-wise, it's just, I don't think it's as good. Phantasy Star got 96. Phantasy Star changed how RPGs could be made, how they could look. It was an amazing game. Legend of the Dragoon came in at 95. Now, it wasn't as big as some of the other ones, but it was a solid RPG. Vagrant Story, 94. Another good game. Let's see. What else? Diablo 3 came in at 92. Now, Diablo 3 is a recent game and doesn't have a lot of the same truisms or same things going on as most RPGs, but still, well, it's a pretty big game. 91 was Fable 2. Now, this ticks me off. I love Fable 2. I have Fable 2 not sitting down here because I don't own it. I've just borrowed it. I have Fable 3. I feel stupid. Fable 2 is much better. But 91, really? And then I believe it's like 89 or 88 gives you, well, 89's Fallout New Vegas, which I'm okay with, actually. Final Fantasy IX comes in at 88. Final Fantasy has shown us what RPGs can really be on a single-player setting. I'm just going to skip ahead here to 70. What do we have up here? Number 70. Demon Souls. Never heard of it. Number 69. It's another Shin Megami Tensei. There's a lot of these games. Kingdom Hearts 2 comes in at 68. Kingdom Hearts 1 came in way in the late 80s. I don't get it. Final Fantasy Tactics Advance is 67. It's an excellent game, but probably where it deserves to be. Mario and Luigi Partners in Time. I've never heard of this game. I don't want to hear about this game. 66. I'm getting emotional over this. Paper Mario, The Thousand-Year Door. Okay, whatever. Final Fantasy X, 64. How is this better than 8 or 9? I don't know. I hate this game. I love Final Fantasy. I hate Final Fantasy X. Everyone's got their opinions on this. I've got mine. I digress. I get very emotional when it comes to these lists, can you tell? I don't know these games. Oh! Okay. Forget all I said about being nice and being kind. They put Chrono Cross at number 61. Chrono Cross is my favorite game of all time. I absolutely love this game. I beat my brother up when he went and deleted my files on the little memory card disk because he wanted some more Grand Theft Auto space. I hit the boy, and he could kill me right now. I hope you're not watching, Alex. Chrono Cross is an amazing RPG. I love it. Absolutely love it. It's a sequel to Chrono Trigger Classic. I'm going to say NES. It could be SNES. I'm not sure. I had this for the PlayStation 1. 61? Now I'm depressed. I'm going to go look back at the S.H.I.E.L.D. article and giggle, because I'm happy with that. Okay. Anyway, so I've rambled on. It's been 13 minutes. This should have taken 10. Sorry. Anyway, that's going to do it for this week's Wide World of Geek. There will not be a weekend workshop this week. I will be finishing up my second job this weekend. I've had to put in my 2 weeks notice, and it all gets to end Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. So I'm not going to be around enough to do a weekend workshop or to even think about one. So we will be back next week with episode number 13 of the Wide World of Geek, and I won't be looking